I did not raise my voice, I did not confront anyone, I simply stood in the doorway of my daughter's home office watching the pale glow of her laptop cut through the dark room and felt something inside me turn completely cold. My name is Robert Hale and I am 63 years old. For the last 18 months everyone around me believed I was living out my final days. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, the doctors said, 6 months at most they predicted. My devoted daughter Emily left her life in Seattle and moved back to our family home in Carmel, California to care for her dying father. Tonight was Thanksgiving, the house smelled of roasted turkey and cinnamon. Emily insisted on hosting what she kept calling my last holiday. She said it with such rehearsed tenderness it would have broken my heart if I had not opened her laptop 20 minutes earlier. The screen still showed her search history. I read it again slowly, my hand steady. Antifreeze poisoning, symptoms similar to cancer. How long does ethylene glycol take to kill? Can blood tests detect antifreeze poisoning? Inheritance laws in California when parent dies without a will. Beneath that was an email chain with her boyfriend Daniel. The most recent message was from 3 days earlier. I cannot keep doing this, he wrote. He is lasting too long. They said 6 months and it has been a year and a half. What if he realizes he is not actually sick? What if he changes the will? Emily's reply was calm, almost affectionate. Relax, I handle all his meals myself. The doctor says his condition is progressing perfectly. 2 more weeks at most, then it is 45 million, the house, the accounts, everything will be transferred before anyone starts asking questions. I closed the laptop exactly as I found it. My breathing never changed. 40 years of running a commercial real estate firm teaches you one thing above all else: never react emotionally, always plan. I went back downstairs where Emily was setting the table with fine china she never used otherwise, humming softly. She looked up and smiled, that same practiced expression of concern I now recognized as performance. "Dad, you should not be walking without your cane," she said. "Let me help you back to your chair." I allowed her to guide me to the wheelchair I had never needed, the wheelchair that was the most important prop in my life. "Thank you, sweetheart," I whispered weakly. "What would I do without you?" Her smile was warm and convincing. "You do not have to worry about that, Dad. I will always take care of you." Dinner was immaculate, or rather the catering company she hired was. Daniel arrived with wine, kissed Emily, shook my hand with exaggerated gentleness. "You look better, Robert," he said smoothly, "some color in your face." "The power of good company," I replied, "and Emily's wonderful cooking." She served the first course, butternut squash soup, my favorite, placed carefully in front of me. "I made this especially for you, Dad," she said softly. "It is easier on your stomach." I studied the soup, golden, rich, sweet-smelling. I wondered if the antifreeze was already in it or if she planned to add it later. My own research told me ethylene glycol had a sweet taste, easy to hide in strong flavors. "It smells wonderful," I said. I lifted the spoon and watched Emily watch me. She leaned forward slightly, eager. Daniel tried to appear relaxed but his knee bounced under the table. I set the spoon down. "Actually, sweetheart, could you bring me some ginger tea? My stomach feels unsettled." Disappointment flashed across her face, quickly replaced by concern. "Of course, Dad." The moment she turned away I switched my soup bowl with the one she had placed at her own seat. Daniel was distracted by his phone and noticed nothing. When Emily returned I sipped the tea slowly while she began eating the soup meant for me. I watched her take 3 spoonfuls before touching my own. The dinner continued, turkey stuffing, cranberry sauce, all beautiful, all potentially lethal. I ate very little and she encouraged me to eat more. "You need your strength, Dad." "I am afraid my strength left me long ago," I said quietly, "but I have made peace with that." Then I added casually, "I met with my lawyer last week." Both of them froze. "I wanted to make sure everything was settled," I continued. After all, I paused, then smiled faintly. "I have decided to leave everything to you, Emily, the estate, the investments, all of it. You earned it." I watched triumph bloom in her eyes before she forced it down. "Dad, you do not need to think about that now." No, I said, "it comforts me knowing you will be taken care of. The lawyer is coming tomorrow to finalize everything." It was a lie. My real attorney knew nothing of this, but they did not know that. After dinner Emily insisted I rest, helped me to the guest room, part of the plan I had been quietly executing. "Sleep well, Dad," she whispered, "tomorrow is a big day." Yes, I thought, yes it is. At 2 in the morning I heard them whispering down the hall. 45 million, Daniel said quietly, "we are actually going to pull this off." "Keep your voice down," Emily hissed. I smiled in the dark. Victoria's voice sounded tight. "He seemed fine at dinner, the dosage should have had him feeling worse by now, maybe you need to increase it." Marcus answered quietly, "I cannot risk that, too much too fast and the hospital might actually test for toxins. It has to look natural, like the cancer progressing." There was a pause, then Marcus spoke again. "What about tomorrow when the lawyer comes? We let him sign everything, then Wednesday I make him his special breakfast smoothie, double dose, by Thursday we call 911, by Friday he is gone, by next month we are on a beach, no more debt, no more pretending to care about his boring real estate stories." They laughed together, and the sound of it ran through me like ice. I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling. People have asked me since then, and yes, they have asked, whether I felt sad in that moment, whether I felt betrayed or heartbroken. The truth is I felt nothing but a cold clarifying rage. Victoria was not my biological daughter. I adopted her when she was 8 after marrying her mother Catherine. Catherine died 7 years ago and I believed grief had brought Victoria and me closer. I paid for her education, her business ventures, her lifestyle. I loved her as my own, and she was planning to kill me for money. I had already intended to leave her, at least before I learned who she truly was. The next morning I played my role perfectly, weak, trembling, grateful for her help getting dressed. She made oatmeal for breakfast. I ate half and discreetly disposed of the rest. The lawyer was scheduled for 2 o'clock. At 1:30 I told Victoria I needed the washroom. Instead I slipped into her home office and sent a single email from my phone to someone who had been waiting for my signal. At exactly 2 the doorbell rang, but it was not my lawyer standing there. It was Detective Laura Hayes from State Police along with her partner Detective Mark Collins. Victoria's face drained of color. "Mr. Hale," Detective Hayes said, looking past Victoria to where I sat in the wheelchair, "we received a concerning call regarding your welfare. May we come in?" "Of course," I said, my voice still weak, though I am not sure what this is about. Marcus appeared from upstairs pretending confusion. "What is going on?" "Just a routine wellness check," Detective Collins said pleasantly. "Mr. Hale, we understand you have been quite ill." "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer," Victoria said quickly. "He has been living with us so I can care for him." "How devoted," Detective Hayes replied, her eyes sharp. "Mr. Hale, would you mind if we spoke privately?" "He is very tired," Victoria protested. "Perhaps," Detective Hayes said. "I do not mind," I interrupted. "Victoria darling, could you give us a moment?" She had no choice but to step back. The detectives wheeled me into the living room out of her earshot. "Mr. Hale," Detective Hayes said quietly, 3 months ago you contacted us with concerns about your daughter's behavior, possible financial misconduct and attempts to harm you. You have been cooperating with us since then, correct?" "Yes," I said, dropping the weak voice entirely. "Do you have everything you need?" Detective Collins produced a small recorder. "The audio from last night is clear, combined with forensic analysis from the food samples you provided and records of her debts. Yes, we have everything. Your security consultant accessed the laptop remotely this morning, searches, emails, messages. It is enough." I nodded once. "Then let us proceed." We returned to the main room. Victoria stood frozen, Marcus beside her. They could feel the shift. "Mr. Hale," Detective Hayes said formally, "can you tell us about your current medical condition?" I looked at Victoria, her eyes wide and lost. "I do not have cancer," I said clearly, my voice strong and steady. "I never did." Silence filled the room. Victoria's mouth opened and closed. "What?" I stood up from the wheelchair, not slowly, not with effort, I simply stood. "Sit down, Robert," she whispered, "you are not well." "I am perfectly well, I have been perfectly well this entire time." I walked toward her, steady on my feet. 18 months ago I began to suspect you were stealing from my company, small amounts at first then larger. When I confronted you, you cried and blamed Marcus' gambling debts. I forgave you, I even gave you money to help. Marcus backed toward the door. Detective Collins stepped smoothly into his path. Then 6 months ago, I continued calmly, my business partner mentioned seeing you with a man at a pharmacy in downtown Toronto buying multiple bottles of antifreeze. He found it strange since you do not own a car. I found it strange too, so I started researching. Do you know what I learned? Victoria shook her head, tears forming. Dad, I do not know what you think. Ethylene glycol, I said evenly, the primary ingredient in antifreeze, can mimic the symptoms of cancer when administered in small doses over time: nausea, fatigue, weight loss, kidney failure. A clever person could make it look exactly like a natural decline. This is insane, Marcus shouted. You cannot prove any of this. Actually we can, Detective Morrison said calmly as she raised several sealed evidence bags. These are food samples Mr. Ashford preserved and sent to our lab, all contaminated with ethylene glycol. The laptop seized this morning under warrant filled with incriminating searches and messages, and the audio recording from last night where you discussed the timeline of his death in detail. Victoria collapsed into a chair. You recorded us for 3 months. Ever since I staged my cancer diagnosis with the help of a trusted physician friend, I replied. Every meal you prepared with such care I either avoided or saved for evidence. Every symptom was an act, every moment of weakness a performance. I walked to the wheelchair and placed my hand on it. This was never needed, the cane, the shaking hands, all of it theater. I spent 40 years negotiating multi-million-dollar deals with people who would destroy anyone in their way. Did you really believe I would not recognize a predator living under my own roof? Why, Victoria whispered brokenly, if you knew, why not confront us immediately? Why not call the police? Because I needed certainty, I said quietly. I needed evidence that would stand in court. I needed to know how far you were willing to go, and I needed you to believe you were winning right up until the moment you lost everything. Detective Morrison stepped forward with handcuffs. Victoria Ashford, Marcus Reed, you are under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. As they read the charges, Victoria looked at me with something I had never seen before, real fear. The money, she whispered. It was never really about the money, was it? You would have given it to me. Yes, I said softly, I would have given you anything. All you had to do was love me, or at least not try to kill me. As they were led away, she called back, I am sorry, Dad, I am so sorry. I said nothing, there was nothing left to say. After the house fell quiet, Detective Morrison returned alone. You all right, Robert? I sat on the couch normally. No performance, I will be. For what it is worth, she said, you did the right thing. People like that do not stop. If you had not acted, you would be dead within a week. I know. I looked around at the Thanksgiving decorations hung with such false cheer. Can I ask you something, Detective? Of course. When you deal with cases like this, family hurting family for money, do you ever understand why? She paused. Greed turns people into strangers, and sometimes the people closest to us hurt us the most because we never expect it. I nodded. That was exactly it. I never saw it coming. Later that night I drove myself to my real home in Toronto, a condominium I had quietly maintained the entire time. My housekeeper welcomed me back as if nothing had changed. I poured a glass of scotch and stood at the window overlooking the lake. My phone rang. It was my lawyer. Everything unchanged, he said. The estate goes to the Canadian Cancer Society and the Ontario Hospital Foundation. Victoria will not see a dollar. Let her contest it from prison, I said. There was a pause, then he asked, when did you know for certain? When did you decide to set the trap? I thought about it. The moment I realized I was no longer afraid to die, only disappointed in who she chose to be. That is when I knew exactly what had to be done. The day she called me Dad for the first time in 5 years, she stood in my office with tears in her eyes begging me to let her take care of me during my final months. She had always called me Robert, always Robert, even after her mother died, but that day she called me Dad, and I knew people do not change their habits without a reason. She wanted something, she wanted everything, and she was willing to kill for it. I hung up and finished my scotch. The news would break the next day, the media would feast on it. wealthy businessman exposes daughter's murder plot. I could already imagine the headlines, but that night I felt only exhaustion. My phone buzzed, a message from Detective Morrison: formal charges filed, both remanded without bail, trial in 6 months, you will need to testify. I replied that I would be ready. Another message came through, a number I did not recognize: Mr. Ashford, this is Marie, Catherine's sister. I just heard the news. I am so deeply sorry, if you need anything at all. I stared at the message for a long time. Catherine, the woman I loved completely, what would she think of what her daughter became? What would she think of what I did? I typed back that I appreciated it. The truth I have never told anyone and likely never will is this: I saw the warning signs earlier than I admitted, small cruelties, subtle manipulations, the way Victoria's eyes went flat when she thought I was not watching. Catherine had been warm and genuine, Victoria was not, but I ignored it. I made excuses, because admitting the truth meant admitting I had failed Catherine, failed Victoria, failed to stop something dark growing in my own home. When I finally accepted what she was, I did not confront her hoping she would change. I set a trap because I knew she would not. Some will say I was cruel, that a real father would have tried to save her, but those people have never looked into the eyes of someone who claimed to love them and seen absolutely nothing looking back. They have never wondered whether they would die from illness or from poison served with a smile. I did what I had to do to survive, and if that makes me cold, calculating, ruthless, then so be it. Sometimes that is what survival requires. The next morning I visited my real doctor, Dr. James, who had helped me stage the diagnosis. All tests were clean, he said, no trace of ethylene glycol left. You stopped just in time. Another 2 weeks would have caused permanent kidney damage, another month and you would have died. It would have looked exactly like cancer. He asked if it was worth the risk. I told him yes. She will never hurt anyone again. She will never inherit $1 from me. It was worth it. The trial took place 7 months later. I testified for 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victoria received 23 years, Marcus 18. I did not attend sentencing. That night I had dinner with Marie and her family. We spoke of Catherine, of better days. Mary's daughter Emma was studying nursing, kind and sincere, nothing like Victoria. When she asked if I was truly all right, I told her the truth. I am alive, I am healthy. The person who tried to kill me is facing justice. I suppose that means I am all right. No, she was someone I loved who happened to be evil. Those are not the same thing. 6 months later I sold my entire real estate portfolio, $47 million, the exact number Victoria had dreamed of inheriting. I donated $30 million to cancer research and hospitals across Canada. The remaining funds went into a trust for Emma and her siblings, for education and futures. Victoria will never see a cent. I am 64 now. I live alone by choice. I volunteer. I walk the lakeshore. I teach financial literacy. People sometimes ask if I am lonely. They mean well, but they are wrong. I am not lonely. I am free. Free from loving someone who wanted me dead, free from pretending family where none existed, free to live without fear, without performance, without poison. And every morning I wake up healthy and whole and alive. I remember this. She thought I was weak. She thought I was helpless. She thought she could control me. She was wrong. I am Robert Ashford. I am 64 years old, and I am still here.